Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's Fortellis InVent API 101. We're all glad you're here. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few important points. First of all, as you're looking on the screen, you may notice a small chat box over on the side. Feel free to include your chats. Your comments are important to us as we get to the Q&A section. We'd love to get as many comments as we can. So please feel free to add those as you need to. Let's go ahead and just cover a couple of other station keeping items. That chat will be monitored by my friend Emily, who's going to be responding to you as you go. So again, please get those chats in. I see a couple of likes in there. Wouldn't mind also hearing where everybody's from. So if you could just pop your name and pop in the city and state or country, because I have friends from all over the world, pop those in. Would love to see who's here. Our team is committed to answering many of these questions. So we'll do our best to try to catch many of them during this broadcast. If we're not able to get that comment answered in the broadcast, we will include them in the comment section at the bottom and post those to the video afterwards. We really appreciate everybody's feedback in this process. I see a few people joining in already, which is great. Tim, glad to see you here from Michigan. Where in Michigan are you? It's a Michigander thing, I'm sure. Okay. People are, let's see, I get people always ask me about InVent. Exactly what do I mean when I say it's an InVent? Well, an InVent was an idea that we came up with to replace the world that we live in today. Face-to-face meetings are hard, and we know this. So we decided to create a way to kind of get some of that same information that we've normally done in some of our successful live events, like our Dev Day events. If you've not attended, keep an eye out, because when we go back live, these events are fantastic. They're usually 24 to 48-hour hackathons. It's a deep dive into a lot of great technology and great hands-on opportunities. So we will be doing a live version, a virtual version of our Dev Day coming up at NADA. So keep in touch and watch out for more information on that on all the different Fortellis social channels. So an InVent, by definition, we call it InVent because literally we're taking our events that we used to do and we're allowing you basically to watch those live in office, in your home, or really wherever you find it best to do so. Let's see, we got Tim's here, Michael's here from Automap. Cool, Portland, glad to see that. Mr. Doff just signed in. Dave signed in from Illinois. Glad to have friends up in the Chicagoland area. This first video segment that I'm going to bring up on the screen here for everybody is a neat piece. I come at this with a background of more of a product guy, but at the same time more of a sales guy. My title either comes across as sales engineer or as platform evangelist, depending upon which business card you see on me. So while I have a general understanding of technology, I don't have that deep understanding that oftentimes people are looking for. So I reached out to one of my friends. I reached out to a gentleman named Daniel New. And he's an enterprise architect with CDK Global. We recently recorded a Zoom meeting where we kind of talked through some of the basics and fundamentals of APIs. And I think he did a great job. So I'm going to let Daniel speak for himself. And just going to bring that video up on the screen for everyone to kind of watch. And this is a great intro into the concept of APIs. So enjoy.
My name is Daniel New, and I'm one of the architects and engineers on the Fortellis team. I'd like to talk to you about how APIs are part of the digital transformation underway in the automotive industry today, and also how Fortellis can help your business create new and innovative customer experiences in an age where market forces demand not only those experiences be exceptional, but be delivered with speed and agility. So what are APIs and why are they important? APIs, or application programming interfaces, have become the industry standard for building and integrating modern software applications. They are not just specifications and protocols, but they're products that have commoditized advanced technologies and help businesses, large and small, build applications that realize new opportunities that just wouldn't have been possible even a few years ago. APIs are part of a larger digital transformation that has and continues to reshape many industries today. These APIs have placed tools like search and recommendations, streaming video, mobile payments, location services, natural language processing, and a whole lot more at the fingertips of developers. And without the cost and lead time that would have been needed to build these capabilities internally. Automotive is increasingly feeling the forces that are causing seismic changes in other industries. Consumers now demand to buy products and services when and where they want. The outbreak of COVID-19 has accelerated this demand and highlighted the need to be agile in the face of changing markets. The key here is not to try and build everything yourself, but rather to leverage a growing ecosystem of API products that allow you to be laser focused on delivering to your customers. So by comparison, traditional ways of building integrated applications in automotive have relied upon platforms that ship bulk data extracts. From these extracts, it's left to analysts and developers to then build the business capabilities from the ground up to extract useful and actionable information. A good example that we're all familiar with is inventory data. It's large and unwieldy, and it has to be shipped back and forth between partners. This model of building applications is complicated by complex and proprietary protocols. It requires deep domain knowledge, and it requires intensive certification processes to deliver a capability to market. The Fortellis platform embraces this API-centric transformation. We recognize that you want the same speed, self-service, and ease of use that your teams expect from software development platforms to integrate automotive APIs into your applications. We also recognize that your developers can be more productive using workflow-centric APIs and event streams in core areas such as vehicle sales, service, and CRM. So let's talk about starting your journey with APIs in automotive. Start thinking about what new customer experiences and business opportunities can be unlocked by building applications using workflow-oriented APIs and event streams available from your DMS partners. Learn more about modern standards and design patterns like RESTful APIs and event-driven applications. Learn about industry standard and open source tools to help you build and integrate APIs. And finally, think about how those customer experiences can be built and monetized on Fortellis. You can go to Fortellis.io to learn more about what this platform has to offer.
Thanks, Daniel. It's great stuff. The next person I'm going to introduce to you is a gentleman named Bryan, and he's from GitHub. I reached out to him because I wanted to have a better understanding of, okay, I know what an API is. How do we connect the dots? How do we actually do something with this? As I mentioned before, I kind of work with organizations of many different sizes, and I know that oftentimes there's more than one person involved in one of these in an application. There's many people involved that need to be able to interact and work with it. What's an easy way to do this in connecting it in a way that works with Fortellis? And we're fortunate that we've got a great relationship with GitHub, and we've created an entire page for it. There's links to it all over our platform pages. Just look for the little GitHub cat on the bottom of on any Fortellis.io screen. I'm going to go ahead and let him tell you a little more of his story and really kind of get into how GitHub actually works and how easy it really is to build applications that connect to Fortellis APIs. Before I do, big shout out to Dave Hansen. I see he just joined, and a few other people are jumping in. We got Sydney joining in from Texas. Keep those names out there. Keep those questions coming that you may have as you watch this next video, because we will be taking those questions and we'll be bringing those into our Q&A session. Our moderator Emily is on here as well, so as those questions come up, watch out. She might even give you a tip along the way. Again, let's stay engaged and involved. We're really looking forward to the Q&A section next. But first, let's go ahead and let Bryan tell his side of the story from GitHub.
My name is Bryan Cross, and I'm a principal solutions engineer at GitHub. Today, I'm going to show you just how easily and quickly you can move from nothing to a published application using GitHub. During this process, we're going to create the new application, we'll detect and fix open source vulnerabilities, we'll use GitHub Actions to automatically build, test, and deploy our application, and then we'll introduce how you and your team can work together on GitHub to produce amazing applications. We're going to begin with an empty repository in GitHub, which is the typical starting point for any application development process. So I've already got my application coded up inside of VS Code, which has a fantastic integration with GitHub that lets me commit code and push up to GitHub from inside of the VS Code UI. So I'm going to click on the source control icon. I see the files that are ready to be committed. I'll select them, press the commit button, leave a message to let my teammates know what this commit contains and why I'm doing it. And then the next thing that I have to do is push this code from my local machine up to GitHub. And now if we go back to GitHub and we do a quick refresh, we'll see that my application is in GitHub. And within a couple of seconds, GitHub will have detected the vulnerabilities that are present in the open source dependencies that I imported in my package.json file. We'll explore these dependencies in more depth in just a second. But the first thing we're going to do is use GitHub Actions to automatically build, test, and deploy our new application to the NPM package registry, as well as to the GitHub package registry. So let's get started with implementing CI/CD using GitHub Actions. The first thing I'm going to do is click on the Actions tab. GitHub is smart enough to realize that this is a node application and has suggested workflows that are appropriate for this ecosystem. I'm going to go ahead and choose one that's already been created by my organization admin by clicking on the Set Up This Workflow button. GitHub workflows are code, they're files, they live in the repository alongside the code they work on. We'll just take a look at a couple of features of this particular workflow, including when it is triggered. This clause says that when I create a GitHub release, this workflow will run. And then these two sections here actually use the npm command line to publish our new module, both to the npm.js registry and the GitHub package registry. I don't have to do anything at this point. I can just commit this file, and we're ready to go. So as we just saw, this particular workflow is triggered when we create a GitHub release. You can trigger workflows from practically any event that occurs within GitHub, including pushing code to GitHub, opening a pull request, or even things that have nothing to do with source code, like opening an issue or commenting on a discussion. First thing I need to do is create a GitHub release. I'll click on Create a New Release. I will give this a version and create the release. Under the covers, that fires the event that triggers the workflow. So I'll head back over to the Actions tab. I see the workflow, my basic node CI/CD, and I can see that this workflow is actually running right now. So let's take this opportunity to go back and look at those open source vulnerability alerts in a little bit more detail. Clicking on the Security tab and then clicking on Depend About Alerts shows me all of the vulnerabilities that GitHub detected in the open source modules that I imported using package.json. It's worth pointing out that this functionality also works for many other popular programming languages, including Java Maven, Ruby, and many more. If I click on a single vulnerability alert, I get more detail about why this is potentially dangerous in my application, as well as guidance around how to actually fix it by upgrading this particular module in my package.json file. In the time it takes to read all of this information, GitHub has already created pull requests to implement these fixes. These are normal pull requests, which I can use on my software development lifecycle like any other change to the code. And once I merge these pull requests, these vulnerabilities should never return to my application. So if you're new to GitHub, you may be wondering what I mean by a pull request. Let's take a moment to review the basic GitHub workflow and how pull requests serve as a way for you and your team to collaborate efficiently and asynchronously around changes that are proposed to your code base. Let's take a closer look at the GitHub flow, which is the workflow designed to enable you to make modifications to your code base without affecting the applications that are actually deployed in production environments. The first thing that we do when we want to make a change or introduce a new feature or fix a bug is create a feature branch, and we'll go over how to do that shortly. Once this branch is created, we can continue to commit new code to that branch without affecting what's happening on the production branch. As early as possible in the process, you should open a pull request, which announces your intention to introduce changes to the code base and provides a forum for you and your team to review and discuss the changes to the code before they're merged back in to your production branch. Once the pull request is open, you can continue to make commits for new code, but this time it's happening in a public forum where you and your team can observe the changes, discuss them, and ultimately make the decision whether to approve those changes and then merge them back into production. So let's see how that works in real life. So my colleague, Daniel, will create an issue. And a GitHub issue is basically just a threaded discussion. In this scenario, my colleague, Daniel, has collected some information from our initial users and has some feedback that might require some changes to the code.
Hey, Bryan, I went ahead and reviewed your pull request and just found a couple of small things. So just wrote some comments and go ahead and take a look.
And there it is. When I open this issue, I see a couple of things. First of all, he's mentioned me using the @mention capability. What this means is that I'll get a notification both on my GitHub home screen and potentially on the GitHub mobile app, letting me know that Daniel wants me to do something. So I can see that what he's after here is some CLI output in our application. All right, well, that sounds easy enough. Let's head over to VS Code, make the changes, and then create the pull request in GitHub to implement those new features. Let's implement the GitHub flow in our actual application in VS Code. So the first thing I do is create a new branch. And VS Code makes that easy. All I have to do is click on the branch name down here in the lower corner. I'm going to get a name to my branch that will help people understand what I'm doing. I'm adding output at this point, and then I'm going to create the new branch. So I've already got the code that I need here commented out. I'll simply uncomment it, save the file, and now I'm ready once again to commit my code to GitHub. And I'm going to say adding output per customer request. So I've committed that code to my local Git repository, and now I'm going to push that code back up to GitHub. And when I do that, GitHub will detect that I've created a new branch and ask me if I want to create a pull request, which in this case, I absolutely do. So I'm going to click on Compare and Pull Request. And I'm also going to add a special bit of text here that will link this pull request with the issue that Daniel created. So when this pull request is merged and closed, it will at the same time close the associated issue. So I'm going to go ahead and create that pull request. And again, this is an opportunity for folks on my team to review my code. So in this case, I want Daniel to review my code. So I've sent him a notification asking him to do just that. All right, so I can see here that Daniel would like me to add some CLI output. Okay, fair enough. Let me let Daniel know, first of all, that I've gotten the message and that I'm ready to do this work by responding to the issue. So that lets Daniel know that I'm on top of it. And look, he has responded as well. So it's worth pointing out that GitHub issues provide a rich user experience with support for emojis, as well as animations, videos, and whatever other kind of content you'd like to share in an issue. Okay, time to get started. So let's switch back over to VS Code and make the changes we need to implement this new feature. So I've pushed my new code. Now it's time for me to create a pull request of my own. GitHub recognizes my new branch with the changes that it contains. All I have to do is click on the Compare and Pull Request button, add Daniel as a reviewer because I want him to approve my code, and create the pull request. At this point, Daniel will review the code and make whatever suggestions he thinks are appropriate. So let's just review what we've accomplished here in this very short session. First, we have created a new application in GitHub. Secondly, GitHub has let us know about all of the vulnerabilities in the open source dependencies that we are importing as a part of this project. Third, GitHub has created pull requests that automatically address those open source dependency vulnerabilities, protecting us from potential breaches. Lastly, and possibly most importantly, we used GitHub Actions to automatically build, package, and deploy our application to the NPM package registry, as well as GitHub's built-in package registry.
Great stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and shift gears now and kick off another Zoom meeting and bring in Daniel and Bryan both so that we can kind of run through a few questions together. I know I have a few. If you have some more, please consider adding those into the chat on the side of the YouTube channel. I'd also encourage you to take a moment and help us out so that we can be the best we can for you. If you go back into that LinkedIn invite, there's a poll on the bottom of the page. It'll be open for the next 2 weeks, asking about 4 different APIs to try to understand which specific API domain is most needed for your organization. Your feedback is always welcome there as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring on, by magic, our guests. And everybody should be able to hear me well. You guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Awesome. Good to see you, Bryan, and good to see you as well, Daniel. Bryan, that was an amazing presentation you did for us. We really appreciate it. I know that we've added a link into the bottom of the page to take you to the Fortellis GitHub page where people can learn a lot more. Could you tell us a little more about how easy it is to kind of sign up and get started on GitHub?
Oh, absolutely. So all you have to do, if you go to that link at the top of the page, there should be a login or sign up link. If you already have a GitHub account, go ahead and log in. If you don't, just click the sign up link. It's easy, takes just a few seconds, and it'll last you for the rest of your life.
Fantastic. And could either one of you, I'll leave it to you to choose whether it's Bryan or Daniel, could one of you just tell me a little more about the Fortellis GitHub page and some of what's there?
Sure. Yeah. So our GitHub page on Fortellis is your place to go to find sample code, to find our open source projects, of which we have three, including our API linter, our CLI, and a documentation management system that we use internally. And you can find sample API specs there as well as some of our documentation. So it's a great place to go and find ways to help you get started using something.
Awesome. And Michael just asked if Bryan could turn up his mic a little bit. I guess he was a little on the quiet side in that last one. Looking this one more time.
Still quiet?
Yeah, I guess you need to put on that radio voice, right?
Let me switch over to speakers and see if that makes. Does that make a difference?
I think you sounded better the first time. I'd go back, which is good.
All right, I will project.
Project, sweet. Hopefully you can hear a little better, Michael. Excellent. So a couple questions that came up in the API video. Daniel, you talked about how we have workflow APIs, and I was curious to understand, just maybe from a layman's sense, am I able to actually use those APIs to get data kind of the same way I used to in the past where I was getting FTP data, or how does that work in this new world?
So I would say that the biggest difference between like the way that we see data in the past as like data transfers, versus workflow-oriented APIs is that a workflow-oriented API allows you to issue API requests that perform specific actions. It's not up to you to like interpret the data that you receive and then try to figure out how to do something with that. So for example, with our repair orders API, there's a specific endpoint that is, create repair order, and it has a very specifically tailored, request payload that makes it a lot easier for the developer to understand how to use it and perform those actions successfully.
Interesting. So I heard you mention workflow, and I also heard you talk about an event-driven. Can you give me a little understanding of the difference there?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to understand the difference is that an API is what we sometimes call a synchronous, API, is something that you are commanding a system to go do something for you. Like, so it's, I want you to open a repair order for me. I want you to retrieve like the service lines on the repair order, versus an event stream, which would be like, it's like the observations after the fact of you performing those actions. So the event that would be emitted, after you create a repair order would be repair order created. So these are basically observations of what's happening as you're using the API.
Awesome. I got an ask earlier about working with apps, and a lot of that came out of watching that the video that Bryan did. And the question really was just, is it pretty easy for more than one person inside of Fortellis to kind of collaborate and work on an app, both in GitHub and inside the Fortellis side of things? I can speak on the Fortellis side in the sense that you can create a user account and then go ahead and create your organization. Then you can add multiple users to that organization. so that each one can have access to it. Then how easy is it on the GitHub side, Bryan, I know we talked a little bit about some of the collaboration from commenting, but if like two people wanted to just work together, could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Sure. So maybe I'll take a step back and say that if you are unfamiliar with GitHub, just go to guides.github.com, and we've got some great content there that will help you understand how Git and GitHub work and give some context for what I'm about to say, which is once you're on the Fortellis page in GitHub, the organization, you can browse the source code. You can clone that code down to your local machine and work on it or examine it. You can also what we call fork a repository, which gives you your own copy where you can essentially propose changes. And you can also interact with GitHub in a number of different ways as well. For example, provide feedback to the Fortellis team. Once again, if you've used GitHub, it's exactly like all the other organizations you work with. And if you haven't used GitHub, you're in for a treat because it is specifically designed to facilitate and allow the kind of group and mass collaboration around a particular technology like Fortellis.
Awesome. So just a real basic question then, how easy is it for me to get started testing an API on Fortellis? Daniel, if I'm just a new guy and I say, okay, I want to just knock on the door and see how it works, how easy is that?
Sure. So if you go ahead and you sign up on Fortellis, you can go to fortellis.io and look at our developer guides and instructions there. So we have documentation that explains like how you would go ahead and be able to use the feature that we have, which is like you are issued test credentials, and you can basically make live API requests against our mock API servers. So for any API specification that's been published to the platform, it has mock requests that can be sent back to you, and you can use that for going ahead and experimenting, building simple prototypes, or just going ahead and playing around with Postman and seeing how that all works.
Awesome. Well, we're getting near time, but before I go, Bryan, I just wanted to give you a chance to give another shout out to the team. I'm going to add a few more questions down below. Any other parting thoughts on the GitHub side that we can use to kind of get started faster?
Well, first of all, if you are involved in software development, then you probably already use GitHub. And if you don't, then seriously consider joining up. We're very excited to partner with Fortellis. We think this is a great example of how to leverage the already existing GitHub platform and the millions of developers that are out there to help grow an ecosystem around an API in a project like this. So we're super excited to work with you guys and really looking forward to seeing more people join the project and the creativity and the innovation that comes out of that.
Awesome. Daniel, any closing thoughts on your side?
I just wanted to offer, the same thoughts about like how excited we are to work with GitHub. I mean, it's a fantastic platform for collaboration, and we're very excited to find innovative ways to integrate with GitHub to make developers' lives easier.
Awesome, great stuff. Thanks again, guys, for coming on. And again, thanks to everybody for joining in today's InVent. We are going to take the remaining questions we have in comments there. We'll respond to those and add those to the comments down below. Please, again, go back to that. If you haven't done so, go back to our the page on LinkedIn. And at the bottom is a poll question. We're trying to understand of the 4 API domains, which one really makes the most sense for your organization? Which one do you really need to succeed? We're always looking for feedback to try to make sure that we're offering a robust and complete platform to help the industry as best we can. And I want to thank you all once again for joining. Look forward to seeing you at future InVents. Keep an eye out for information on Dev Day. We will be doing a great live broadcast like this and a virtual event around NADA. Should be a great time. And watch for more InVents like this up to come as we announce them on LinkedIn and our other social channels. Thanks again, and happy selling. And we're off. Had a couple of other questions there.